Today we got another new project for you guys. We saved another Subaru from the scrap heap. Forrest picked up this Subaru Outback. I think it's a 2004. It was at his work because he got rod knock, as most of these NA, EJ25s do. And the customer couldn't afford to repair it, so we picked it up off of her for really cheap, just a couple $100, and we're gonna put a new engine in it. So as you can see, it's a factory 5-speed. I think it had like 160,000 miles on it or something. If you look in the back here, this is basically how we got it. The entire engine is in pieces in here. The guy who sold it to us, actually, they already scrapped the actual engine block, so we don't even have an actual engine block to turn in for a core charge or anything. But this thing is really like optioned out. Like, it has heated seats, heated mirrors, a heated windshield, for the wipers. It's really, really nice inside and out. So it was definitely worth, spending the money on it to fix it up. So as you can see, no engine or anything, but it's it had its timing belt done at 100,000, but that engine's gone anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it's just going to be a really clean car. We actually picked up a brand new remanufactured engine from Subaru. We've never actually bought a brand new remanufactured engine, like an engine block, from Subaru before, so it's pretty cool. See, it has a tape deck in here with Bluetooth. It's got a little microphone all built in here. I think the previous owner might have been a smoker or something, but it actually doesn't smell bad in here at all. It was some lady who was a mom, I think, but there was a bunch of kids' toys. So let me take you guys inside the garage, and I'll show you the brand new shiny engine block we got for it. All right, and you guys might notice we finally cleaned our shop here. So that's the new engine. We'll take a look at that in a second. These are the heads from that original block. They came out. We sent these off to the machine shop. Everything got checked out and everything's good. We might have to set the valve lash. I'm not sure yet, but got the thing is decked and everything's resealed and ready to go. New valve stem seals and all that stuff, I'm pretty sure. So let me get this bag off of this thing and I'll show you what we got. Alright, bam, there it is. So this was highly unusual, but we actually got this with the oil pump, water pump. It even has an oil filter on here, an oil pan. Like, it's fully dressed straight from Subaru, which I guess is not very typical when you buy an engine block from them. So it's got brand new internals and everything is just absolutely spotless. Like, it even has the oil plate and everything in the back. It has a remain seal already installed. So literally all we're gonna have to do is just install the heads and just start bolting stuff on. So we already got our engine seal kit here. So we got head gaskets. They're MLS gaskets. It's all Felpro stuff, which some people don't like, but I think they're alright. So we're pretty much just going to put this on a time lapse and just start throwing it together. And then it's going to be pretty interesting because we're going to have to put the engine in where it is, because our driveway is a hill, so we're not going to be able to pull it in here into the actual garage to install the engine. So So I'm going to give you guys a little update. You just saw me. I torqued down all the head bolts. On these, they have a special sequence where you do the center two to like 25 foot-pounds, and you do the outer two to 11 foot-pounds, and then you turn them all 90 degrees twice in the perfect order. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. And so that's how it's done on these engines. So that's what I did on both sides, and it's all good to go. I also put the knock sensor on right here, and we've just been going through this box of parts that the car came with. It's got like the old water pump, like the windage tray here. You can see the old windage tray is full of metal shards, like. So all this stuff is junk. Like this oil pump is junk because it's full of metal. Everything's full of metal. So really all we're using is like, you know, the stuff we actually need, like the crank sprocket and all the bolts and sensors and all that kind of stuff. We need to clean up the timing belt covers, start getting that stuff ready. Need to do, I don't know if we're going to actually check the valve lash because the valve lash was perfect before. I would never mess with any of it, so I might just double check real quick and make sure they're within spec and throw the valve covers on. But we're going to keep you guys on the time lapse and just keep plugging away at this thing. These single overhead cam ones are really easy. You just line up the mark here on the crankshaft with the dot right there. You line up these right here with the lines. So right now you can see it's already lined up. This triangle right here is not the timing mark. That's top dead center. The timing mark is this one over here. It lines up with the crank. There's actually a mark right there. But you can line it up with a little dot by the crank angle signal sensor. And with these newer ones, they come with this little, the timing belt kits come with this little tool, because you have this, which is like a guard, basically, to help stop the timing belt from like jumping or skipping a tooth. Like if you're cranking it or something and the timing belt messed up, the tensioner fails or whatever, you can it'll prevent it from skipping teeth and possibly bending valves, because this is a interference engine. So what you do is you just kind of stick this in here, and then this is like a spacer basically, and that spaces it out right there. Then you can tighten down your bolts and pull it out, and then it's spaced perfectly so it doesn't interfere with the belt. If you put this on without this, which I've seen this happen before on my mom's car, it'll actually rub the belt and destroy the other side of the rubber, and then it can snap. So luckily we caught hers before that happened, but you need to make sure you have this tool. It should come with your timing belt kit. Timing cover's back on. We can go ahead and throw the crank pulley on. We're not going to torque this down until it's in the car. I think we usually do about 70 foot-pounds or so. Each one's slightly different. I'm going to look it up and see what exactly the torque spec should be, but we need to actually have it in the car before we could do that to hold the engine still. So after that, next thing is we need to get it up on the engine stand and get the clutch put on. So I'm going to get that unboxed. Start getting that ready. Just make sure once you're to this point, put your ratchet on it and make sure you can rotate the engine over 4 or 5 times freely. You want to make sure this is your last chance to make sure everything's perfect. So I almost forgot, I have to put on a oil pressure switch right there. So that'll probably be the next thing. So this is the clutch we went with. This is an actual Exetti flywheel for an 04 Outback. And this is an XTD. It's like a knockoff Exetti clutch kit that we put on all our cars. This is what's on my wagon and all that stuff. They're decent and they're really cheap, so that'll work really good for this car. The only thing is we always go with OEM throwout bearings. So normally we get an OEM pilot bearing as well, but this is an Exetti, so it came with one in there, so it's perfect. So I think this is a stage 1 kit or stage 2. I think it's a stage 1, but it should be really nice for a daily, and it's only about $100. So we've had like 4 or 5 of them so far, and they've all been great. So that's the next thing to do, is get the engine up on the engine hoist and put this flywheel on, and then put the clutch kit on. Push. Here, we just put it to a bolt here on the block. Got that pretty even, and then we have the mount right there. We're doing this out here on the side of the road, so this should be fun. There we go. Where are the bolts? How many foot-pounds are you doing?
70.
70 foot-pounds?
68. 70.
Yeah. Where'd you put them? They're on the cars now.
I don't know.
Let's get this on finger tight. You want to wiggle this around, make sure the disc is right in the center, and then tighten these in a star pattern very evenly. So just make sure they go down really even and snug. Like just turn each one a little bit, and so that way it snugs up evenly. They're all snugged up. We're gonna do it to about 15 foot-pounds, which it should be able to. Yeah, don't have to hold it for that. Is it recording?
You guys are gonna have to take the hood off.
Is it clear on that side? Here, watch the AC condenser too. I should have put a piece of cardboard.
I'm trying. As you go down, it goes more forward.
Go back.
Go up.
No. Go forward. Stop right
Go
there.
up more.
Go up.
Let's do it. Okay, can you hold it here and I'll go grab some bolts because we don't have...
The bolts are all in that bag right there.
Engine's in. Now just to put the rest of the bell housing bolts in and the motor mounts with the washers. Lexi's curious. But yeah, it's looking good. So, maybe. So we got the belts on and everything. We're just about to put the radiator in. This new block didn't come with studs in it like it normally does, and you put a nut on it. So I've been trying to find the bolts for the bottom section. But we're just kind of putting everything back together now. Pouring on us, so we're gonna wait for the rain to stop. Hopefully it clears up in a few minutes. The rain stopped, so we just threw this guy on there. It's all like one piece, so just bolting that down. There's the bolts here that hold it down. We got a new hose clamp for our radiator hose here. Still need to do the lower radiator hose, plug in the fans, and I think we have, what else we got back here? Yep, so we got the exhaust, battery tie down. That's pretty much it. So I think we just got a few more little things to button up, and we can start it up for the first time. Okay, so we got our new OEM exhaust manifold gaskets. I need to flip this thing around and somehow crawl under there without getting covered in mud and put the exhaust on. Then we should be able to do a couple test cranks, make sure it's got oil flowing, and then see if it starts. We don't have a battery for the Outback, so we're stealing one from Forrest's Daily. Should be the same battery, so this will just be temporary until we buy a new battery for that car.
Just getting the exhaust put on. Lower radiator hoses and stuff.
Oh, you plug the fans in. All hooked up. Just bolted that in. We need to hook up the O2 sensors. Forrest's batteries in there, so that's all hooked up. Let's see what else we got to do. It's dark now, but we unplugged the fuel pump relay from down there in the corner and unhooked the coil pack so we could do a couple dry starts. And you can see it has almost exactly 170,000 miles on it, which is interesting. I thought it had a little bit lower, but it is what it is. So let's give it a couple cranks to get some oil pressure going through it, and we'll see how it goes.
Do it again. Okay. Just plug in fuel and spark now. No coolant yet, so we're just gonna make sure it starts and then we can throw coolant in it. Yay! Oh, it's got a headlight out. Nice and quiet.
Turn it off. Looks good.
So it's got 170,000 miles on it, which we didn't know until just now because it's a digital cluster. So
Sounds good.
yeah, it's really quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. put coolant in
All right,
it.
well, we have a small leak in the radiator, but it's running pretty good. We gotta get a new radiator. I think it must have gotten punctured. It's so quiet, you can hardly even tell it's running, but that's it. It runs. Got the engine in one day. So that's gonna be it for this video. We're gonna, replace the radiator later. But thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.